On daybreak, and this morning we are remembering the death of a president, the macaroni company, Jim Kelly's stargaze, and the start of the liberation of Europe.
All right, Dave McKinley has our weekly walk back through time when those stories and more were all news to you.
10 years ago this week,
we have businesses coming in that you couldn't dream of 3 years ago.
A confident Governor Cuomo after giving IBM $55 million taxpayer dollars as part of the Buffalo Billion to bring a tech hub with 500 high-paying jobs to the Key Center downtown. It is 10 years later and the facility largely failed to meet expectations. Only about half the number of jobs pledged ever materialized, and far from the high-salaried, cutting-edge software development jobs envisioned. Most were call center jobs for modest pay and meager benefits, and certainly not the type promised this week in 2014. 20 years ago this week, the ribbon was cut, the doors were opened, and Falls View Casino began operations in Niagara Falls, Ontario. This former Benderson property at Southwestern Boulevard and Orchard Park Road was being raised to make way for the first Lowe's home improvement store in Western New York. William Hung, he of She Bangs fame, was headlining Kiss the Summer Hello at the now long-gone pier on Buffalo's Outer Harbor, and our nation mourned and said goodbye to its 40th president, Ronald Reagan, who died at the age of 93 this week in 2004. 30 years ago this week, this actor was introduced as the choice to become the newest James Bond. This week's News to You pop quiz named this actor, who would go on to play 007 in 4 Bond films over the course of the next 7 years after his selection was announced this week in 1994. Remember, this was back when you could still shop at Radio Shack, and when New York Democrats brought their annual statewide convention to Buffalo, along with a real live donkey and a host of party stalwarts from that era.
And then there are those delegates who just can't be without their phone.
Jim Kelly's Stargaze had a new home at UB Stadium with the usual complement of famous folks from song, the screen, and sports, and of course Mary Alice too. And it was also when a new law went into effect statewide requiring children under the age of 13 to wear a helmet while bike riding this week in 1994. 40 years ago this week, when you might remember visiting an office to sign up for a dating service because we had no internet or apps for that, or dining at the once popular Macaroni Company on Franklin Street downtown. You also might recall, over the objection of some neighbors, ground was broken in Hamburg for the construction of the McKinley Mall this week in 1984. Finally, we'd be remiss not to mention that 80 years ago this week, the greatest armada ever assembled began the invasion to liberate Europe. And on D-Day, 2,500 brave American servicemen died in a time when it was not from television, but through newsreels that we learned of what happened in the days when it was all news to you.
And here's the answer to this week's News to You pop quiz. The actor introduced as the new James Bond 30 years ago, Pierce Brosnan.
No, that's Remington Steele.
He succeeded Roger Moore in the role of 007 and would go on to star in 4 Bond films over the course of the next 7 years.
I liked him as Bond. He was a good Bond.
He's no Sean Connery.
No, he's no, who's the one I like? For Your Eyes Only. Oh, come on.
Roger Moore?
Roger Moore, to me, he was the best. Because he was
the one Pierce was right after him.
Yeah.
No, there was another guy.
Was there?
There was another British actor in between those two. Look it up. I forgot his name. Just doesn't come to me like it used to. But
More better than Sean Connery.
Sean Connery was good.
We need to talk.
Roger Moore.
You
He's
need
my
to talk
guy.
about it.
All right, let's get to it. Show you what's